Go ahead and call the meeting to order. So thank you to everyone for coming. And I think we've met everybody at this point already, but welcome to our guest here today. And I guess we need to do a roll call, so.
All right, Mr. Boyd?
Here.
Mr. Owens?
Here.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Here, Hartshorn.
Hearts
And then horn.
Hartshorn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not
Hartshorn.
Wait a minute,
No.
I
Oh, good,
I
because
just
I
figured I'd
asked.
start
Good
her
to
off on the
know.
right foot.
Okay. Hartshorn.
Hartshorn.
Got it, okay. So then, Mr. Giesler.
Yes, here.
That's correct,
Yeah.
right?
And Michael Weaver is also actually on this committee. He's a member of the committee, so.
Okay, so we should be adding you to
Yeah.
roll call too?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Weaver, we'll add you right now.
Michael Weaver.
Michael.
Here.
Okay.
Okay.
It's good to have you back, Michael.
Thank you. So, and thank you for bringing this agenda together for us.
Well, now, wait a minute, you didn't ask me.
Oh, well,
this is
shoot,
right.
you got skipped.
That's my name is just too easy.
This is right. We got the whole Hartshorn thing, and then I think I said it at the same time.
Between Hartshorn and Giesler.
Yeah.
Yeah, White made it really difficult.
Yeah.
That-
Just skipped right all over that one.
Yeah. All right. So, first item, meeting objectives and talking about the various districts. There's the existing old historic district and then sort of with the state footprint. And I think we all had sort of some questions about that, so maybe we can take a look at that.
Can we put it up?
Yeah, that's what I was trying, but I can't get the GIS to work. I thought that I could just move from computer to computer, but it doesn't seem to,
I didn't
want to
print
let me
one
in.
off, so I guess
Oh.
I'll share with fire.
Yeah, do you want me to print, should we print some more?
I have a packet.
Yeah.
You got another?
Anybody else?
We might need a couple extras.
Do you have an extra one?
If you
don't
don't-
print you one.
Yeah.
We can share here.
Yeah.
Christie and I can
with fire.
share.
Yeah,
and
and
we'll
you guys can
Okay.
share.
I'll share with
There
that.
you go. Share that.
Nice.
So I guess.
Mike has his on a big formal.
Oh, yeah, he's got the big screen there. I didn't realize there were all these districts.
So these are all the sub-districts. And then we tried to sort of look at the areas that are in, that were different from the historic. So the state one includes all of them plus the extra areas, and then just just our actual sub-districts, and then just a plain historic district from the state one. So it's a little bit hard because there is a lot of overlap. but-
Which is the state one that you're looking at right
State
here?
is just this dark blue one.
This one right here?
Right here, yep.
But what's this one right here?
So this is the parcels
Oh,
that are
okay.
outside
This is the state
yeah.
ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay, thanks.
So this is the state one?
The all blue.
Correct,
Okay.
all blue.
I
is
think
the
that's
state.
always been the
I
mystery.
don't think we have that.
Yeah, maybe we
I
don't.
think it's your last page.
But with the new zoning, or whatever
Oh,
the
okay.
commission is doing, whatever we call that, you'll be less.
The
Less
state
subdivision.
one looks, it's expanded.
But not less parcels, so that's
So
kind of what I think they were trying to do.
which one is the historic district that we,
This one with all of the sub-districts, so this
okay.
is, yep.
So all that together is
Correct.
what comes under our purview.
Correct.
Current across or something like that, yeah.
This
And this is state.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this one?
current.
Okay.
So just looking at them, it looks like there's actually, is that Montcalm that's?
It must be that dark
If
purple.
you can, I
Is
can
it
get on
ours?
it.
Betsy's that
Maybe you
dark
should sign next to
purple
your
Montcalm right here.
That's
So-
Depot Square.
Oh, that's Depot.
No, that's the house across,
It says Depot Square.
if you took, the 13 is where the depot is and also Mom is.
Yeah, where are you looking
And then that's
at
across the
13?
railroad track, the old.
We're looking at the
Oh, I
big-
see
the
what you're
colors.
saying. This is,
Oh,
this
that's,
is across from the.
Oh, I
okay.
see what you said.
That's
see,
Green-
that's Green Spring
Yeah,
Road,
that's,
so
that's
not
between
Depot.
Green Spring Road and.
But why
Creek.
does that down there below?
yeah, why is
The
that
the
like
pink
that?
says Depot Square.
This would be Montcalm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
think
Look
one
at
was
but
it.
not
Montcalm is not in here, but it's on the
Oh,
national
I think
register.
it's colors of this
Well, I
one.
know this
Color.
is showing that it's in our district.
Yeah.
I'm-
So-
I'm
How is it
inaccurate.
showing that it's in our district? I thought it was this.
No.
Oh, is that, which one is the black
Yeah,
forest?
Montcalm is that
Oh, I
one that
see
looks
Depot
like,
Square. It's
Mount
this
Common
one right
is
here.
not
It's this-
colored.
It's this
it's
pink.
not
Hmm.
colored, yeah.
Yeah,
This is
it
Montcalm.
would
It looks
be
like
to the left of
sideways
number
state
12.
of Utah.
Yeah,
So this,
this would be.
This is Food City.
oh, okay.
These are the ball fields. This is Food
Oh,
City.
this is the Black's Ford.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the Black, that's the
Yeah.
city to bus property, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
verification.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't.
So actually, there's things that are in our district that are not part of the state. And there's things that are in the state footprint that are not part of ours.
So is Montcalm on a National Historic Registry and that's why we don't have it, or did it just get?
It is,
Included?
is anybody gonna answer that? I will.
I think it's on the National Historic.
It's on the, it's a national register property, but you know, that doesn't really get it any protection.
No.
No, it's just
It's
recognition.
just a recognition, but that's all
Although-
it's got.
And which is that, this dark square?
It looks
It's
like
right
the
here.
sideways
It's this
state
one.
of Utah. It's green next to it.
Yeah.
Well, don't tell them that
Okay.
because
This
they're
side,
under
the
the
other side
impression
is-
that they have to get permission to
That's-
change the paint color.
that's tricky.
So they think they're very strictly regulated.
I know, I have always felt like that is something that we ought to do some sort of spot designation on, because it is so close to everything, and it is just so ripe for somebody buying it
And doing
and
something
altering
crazy.
it, you know, really in a pretty bad way. I
Well,
mean,
would
it's
it even be a spot or would it just be an extension of what's
It'd
already?
be an
Maybe it'd just be an
But
extension.
then what is,
then.
this is that little trailer park here, right?
Is it
Or
contiguous?
is it this?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm trying to figure that out. It
So
looks
that would
like-
be,
What
make
is
it
this?
even easier.
Is all of this Montcalm?
Yeah.
The property adjoins Gibson
Okay.
Street. Remember the lady came in so much to have, did all the work on that little house I used to live in years ago. And it adjoins the Montcalm property,
Yes,
so it
the
would be.
little white house with the brown shutters, it's so
Yes.
precious.
Right, it adjoins
Yeah.
Montcalm, so it
Yes.
would be just an extension, it
Yes.
wouldn't be spot.
So do we
Yes.
know what this is?
I think that's on up that hill there.
Is this just land right
No,
now?
this is, the, you know when you come into town?
Right, here's the creek.
This is Black.
This is Kroger right here.
Yeah,
Okay, so this is not really, okay.
this is that road you come up to.
Right.
Yeah.
That lower sort of triangle is where there's still some residences there.
Yeah, like
Residents.
sort of
Yeah.
Where you-
Somebody with chickens. or
chickens or something, yeah.
Where are you looking at?
This piece below Montcalm.
Yeah.
That little
Oh.
triangle.
Which isn't really historically,
It is
Okay.
for sale.
you know.
And so then, I guess, William King Museum is part of the state, but not part of ours. If I'm reading the map correctly.
That's correct.
And then there's a whole part out here, is that along, what street is that, can you tell?
I had my eyes dilated today, so
Oh.
I can't tell anything.
This-
I know, I was trying to bring up the
This
GIS,
section
but it
here.
wouldn't connect to my account, so.
Where are you, Byron?
Mason Place, oh, this is the library, up by the library.
The Oak
This
Hill
is-
Street
yeah.
section?
Oak Hill
Oak
Street
Hill is
that-
right here.
Yeah.
So this is all up to like the Mahaffey property, yeah.
So that's different, and then
Yeah.
I guess the 300 block of West Main Street is on here that's not part of ours. East Main Street.
Yes.
It stops at Rain, right, currently?
Tanner stops at Tanner Street, and it's right on there by Tanner.
So that looks like the major.
$20 one off that
we
one.
want the-
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's where.
Maybe you zoom in a little further.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that is good.
So that's our current district, right?
Correct.
So there is, so to the west, you can see William King, the circular drive there, that's in the state, but that's not part of ours. And then,
The pink, right over there at the very
Next to
end.
the bank.
right, and then there's a section.
So I can get up here and do Vanna.
Okay, there's a section up through here that's on the state that's not part of ours.
So here's the Academy Drive area right here. This is the museum property here is on the state.
And there's a section here that's on the state that's not part of ours.
The 300 block of West Main that we keep, East Main we keep talking about.
Yeah.
That's what you said. Anything else?
Well,
I thought
we
there
were
was
just,
more.
well, we're comparing it to the state.
I know, yeah.
Because up behind the library is
We-
part of the state.
We said that, that's
Yeah.
right, that's where, we just pointed that out
Oh,
right
okay.
here. lost it. Oh, here it is, right here.
Up in there.
Yeah, so, but it looks like, it's just, it looks to me like it's just the 300 block of East Main.
It looks like
And the
also
museum property and
Park
that Oak Hill extension.
Park Street.
But isn't there the little, the,
There's some property right in.
like, didn't we wanna sort of
There's some property
bring,
right in here.
yeah,
that's
bring this
part
in
of-
because that's where the Finley House was?
Yeah, so this other map, the one that's primarily green,
Okay.
shows you the area that Tyler had indicated you had talked about bringing in some of
And
these
fix-
and like sort of flushing it out, so. it was
So there's some
actually
stuff here that's part of the state that's not part of ours.
Yeah.
It's part of the state?
Yeah.
Okay. There's that little bump out across the Troopers
Yeah.
Alley.
These are what you will see. This is what we, this is the state,
Yeah,
and it includes
All the railroad
properties.
right.
The green is what we currently have,
Yeah.
and the blue is what we talked about bringing in.
Oh, okay. This is what we've talked about then.
Yeah.
So of the state, it looks like we're talking about using the state as one of the reasons for expansion to match the footprint. And I was thinking that the state
To
had
me,
way
that would be the
more
easier
than we
sell.
do, but they don't really. They really just have that 300 block of East Main. They have the museum property. They have that Oak Hill extension, and then you just said a little bit there where, going over to Troopers Alley, what, on
Church.
Pecan or Church? Church. Okay. I was thinking that maybe they had so much it was just gonna be a confusion, but it's not really.
Well, I mean, kind of the way we had discussed doing it was sort of making it
Square.
more of
Yeah.
a long rectangle.
Should we pull that one up? That was one.
Yeah.
So what-
Pulling out some of the
So this is an
random.
aside, but so if, oh wait, never mind. I just can't really, I see now, never mind.
One more, that one, so it seems like that's what you had discussed before. And then with that, if you looked at it, maybe you'd want, I don't know, if it was
To add Montcalm into that.
See, I'm thinking expanding into, like we talked at the last meeting, the whole expansion south down to the railroad tracks is gonna be problematic.
Because of people you've had
Pushback.
had conversations
Yeah.
with. So we wanted to maybe divide this into 2 or 3 or work on them at different rates.
Well, I mean, it seems like maybe the most ambitious thing we should contemplate doing would be just matching the state footprint.
That makes the most sense.
Seems like the easiest
I mean, it
sell.
makes the most sense as a public relations piece, that just logically match the footprint. Now that I see that it's not so terribly different, and it's
Right.
really what we really have talked about anyway, particularly the 300 block. And I didn't know about Montcalm. I didn't realize it was contiguous. So that makes that really easy.
Well, if you're a homeowner and you're in the state footprint,
Mhm.
that doesn't have any bearing on anything you do. What do you get, any kind of tax credit for that?
I think if you apply for a tax credit, you sort of have one hurdle you're over in terms of qualifying for the state.
But your point is well taken, and we'd have to clarify this, but I know that I've heard this from Mike Pulis, who is the state preservation officer out here. I really think that people misunderstand the benefits of that, and they think they're getting the benefits of our historic district
And they're not
benefits, and they're not really as protected as they are, but they are to at least a certain extent. It's worth clarifying that.
Well, I think it's worth educating that.
Oh, I know. I'm all in favor of an education piece myself.
You still have to be,
Do you know? What the
I'm-
difference is?
I'm verging
Uh-huh.
slightly away.
Uh-huh.
You still have to be a contributing property within the district
Yeah.
for the tax credits.
Oh, right,
Because there are non-contributing
right.
But
structures in the districts.
But I've seen the study by which the expansion occurred for the state footprint. And it seems to me that that was based on a case-by-case basis of saying this structure should be included because it is a contributor. So, I mean, you're right, that even if you're in the historic district, our historic district, that doesn't necessarily mean you're contributing. But I think when the state expanded the footprint, I think they did it very methodically in terms of what new structures they were taking in. Not that, I mean, I don't, I just know that they had a listing about, they had an address as to which house should be added.
Yeah, you're not saying that they did a blanket contributing.
Yeah, they didn't, no, they didn't do what we were talking about, saying let's just take everything into the railroad tracks. They had a list of properties that they thought should be included in the historic district you got
And
added.
that was a pretty long time ago, wasn't it?
I think in the 80s, I
Yeah.
think.
And that, correct. And that issue of contributing and non-contributing is an important piece of this. And it's something that we use all the time. I mean, we definitely distinguish between contributing properties and non-contributing properties. And so if we took in, just blanket took in the 300 block of East Main, let's say, they would all fall under the benefits here if they qualified, under the town's benefits. But they would also be subject to the contributing and non-contributing sort of sliding scale of what we require to, for their, to alterations to their property, in other words.
Have any of the times that you all have been on this committee, this board, has anyone applied to join the historic district? And you've had to make that decision if they were contributing or not?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
So everyone just took this, when this was made at face value, and it happened, and hasn't changed at all?
Yes, it hasn't changed a lot now.
Well, it's been expanded.
There was
Now,
only-
So it was
you
original.
know, you all, I've got my old notebook here, the preservation plan, and you'll remember that Phil Thomason in 1998, I guess it was, went case by case on contributing and non-contributing over the neighborhoods that we were thinking about, the Bradley Street area, Stonewall Heights area, et cetera, et cetera. And
There was, to answer your question, there was a lot on Court Street that voluntarily went into the historic district so that they could build up to the property line, was what their logic was, but they never did that.
But where were they on Court Street?
It's the house that Betsy used to live in, they moved across the street that I redid.
Okay.
That was the lot that somebody volunteered.
Directly behind
back-
the, next one behind the bank.
Yeah. So there are some people, not many, but somebody has voluntarily joined the historic district.
And you had to all vote on that, or how did you approve
I
that?
don't recall, we didn't vote on that. I think it just went to the planning commission because,
Do you know?
I mean,
Oh, that's
expanding
good.
one contiguous property is no different
It's probably.
than taking in 50.
Right.
I
I
mean-
just wonder what the process was. Are we gonna sit here and judge all that, or are people, does the town, I mean, what are
So
all the
because
moving parts?
you're not an overlay district, so a lot of
Right.
communities would have an overlay district, you're an actual zoning district,
Yes.
so it would be a rezone.
It'd be a
It would be a
rezone.
zone map amendment to add somebody into
So
one
to-
of these districts.
To get rezoned, everybody has to agree, and if there's one dissent,
Well, I mean, you could come in and you could make a request to add them to this district, and you could have, one person upset and 25 people in favor of it, and it would just be up to the planning commission and then the town council to make a decision through the public hearing process. If they thought it was more valuable to go with the zone map amendment, or if they heard enough public outcry that they were like, no, we're gonna deny this.
so what are the disadvantages that you've heard from your experience of people that don't want to be included in the zoning change?
Well, and I think maybe the comments that, are more in line with like business owners, or, the general tenor is usually people don't want an extra layer of regulation.
They
Even
don't
though
want
get a
people
tax
to
credit.
tell them what to
Can't
do
tell
with
them,
their house.
Yeah.
right, exactly.
And that's
So-
where the education comes in.
Right.
They think we're style police. and
Yeah.
We control
Right.
things like paint colors and light fixtures, but just more in what we like and what we don't like, as opposed to
Personally.
like sort of a snooty kind of
Yes.
way of making everything look the same, as opposed to.
And the process, like having to apply for a waiver, I'm looking at you because we got one in, just the extra step of not just being able to rip out my fence and put a new fence in, or change out my windows or whatever, so there's process and
If
I
there-
think the associated.
If there's a property
cost.
within the historical district
Mhm.
that's non-contributing, that means they're not eligible for tax credit?
Well, when I applied for tax credits, which was 20-some years ago, you had to apply to both the Virginia Department of Historic Resources and to the Department of Interior for the federal credit, and there were applications in both places. And one of the things that had to be established is whether you were, a historic structure, and if you're in a historic district, whether you're a contributing structure in a historic district. So I think, so buildings that were on the National Register, that was already presumed. But if you weren't, even if you're in a historic district, there has to be a determination of that, as I recall. So even though my building was in the historic district, I had to supply us a little bit of background for them to make a decision that it was a contributing structure within the historic district. It wasn't automatically over that hurdle because it was in our historic district or the state's historic.
Well, what I'm thinking about is if there's a property and the owner doesn't want, suppose they're not seeking tax credits, can they do vinyl siding? Can they do vinyl?
No, they're
framework?
still, I mean,
No.
they're still subject, if they're in the district, then to make any significant change, structural change, they are required by the town code to have a certificate of appropriateness from us.
Okay.
And what happens is, in practice, if they're a more modern 1950s, 1960s structure, then when they come in, we just tend to be, we don't allow vinyl siding, but we tend to be more lenient in terms of what we allow because it's a non-contributing structure. We don't usually say that, we just say it's a more, sometimes we say that. But, usually whatever standard we're trying to apply is based on the architectural style of that building. So if it's a newer building, then things that would not be appropriate for just older buildings might be okay for that building. So they can do, when they go to put a door in, or they go to put a little cover over the porch, or they go to put some feature or something, it's less strict what we require of them if it's a newer structure.
I
They
mean,
still have to get a
you can
certificate
just
of
look,
appropriateness.
you can look right directly back at the Mamma Mia's project.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a non-contributing building, and so, there was a whole lot less scrutiny for him to have, for what he wanted to do there than it would be for, for the Summers building, for my house, for your house. I mean,
There was a brick ranch style house over on, I guess, that Valley Street curve where you go around toward White's Mill, and they wanted to put a little cover over the front door, and we allowed that. There's a early 1800s structure on Valley Street that they wanted to put a little cover over their front door, and we said absolutely no, because it was totally inappropriate, so that kind of thing.
That's a very good point, and that other one was the William King house.
Right.
His counting house there on Valley Street, which is, a very important contributing early building for all kinds of reasons. So would not let them do something that was not there originally, but the Brick Ranch house circa 1970 or 80 or something, was, just more lenient with it. What I don't know, and you might be able to say this, I don't know yet, is that, for instance, I mean, we always use that Allstate building on Main Street, that's right beside the Greenway Trig House. That poor place, we always use it all the time. That, that's the epitome of a non-contributing building. And so therefore, if a place like that is going to want to do some renovation, and we let them do what they want to do within reason, at that point, it's a whole nother topic, but it needs to conform to the neighborhood and not, not be insulting to the neighborhood around it, but yet it is not something that we wouldn't let put a little porch over because it's so important. But then they want to apply for the tax credits, for the Abingdon tax credits. I'm not sure if that's a uniform all the way across the board in Abingdon, or if it has to be something that is identified as a as we identified as a contributing
I
structure.
think when we established that tax credit was anything that was in historic.
I think we did.
I
don't
think we did
made
too,
it.
and I
don't
guess
think
it's probably in my notes here.
I don't think we limited it. I don't think we wanted to get in the business of saying,
Yeah.
we regulate you, but you don't get the tax credit
Right.
because you're.
I'm really glad, I'm glad about that,
Yeah.
because that's kind of a sticky
No, I
wicket
can't
to have
speak for
gotten
the state.
into.
I guess that's where I was going.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was where you were going to, and I think that was a good point, a good question to ask.
The
So
one
are
that-
all-
the one I regret is the little stone house on Troopers Alley, where it had rotted windows, and the gentleman came and was willing to, well, it was Mike Rush, and so I know he was gonna pay for those marble windows out of his own pocket, and we wouldn't allow it. You know.
Well, I was strongly against that because if we start letting original windows get pulled out one place, I mean, that's the number one thing people wanna do. I just don't know where you
And
draw the line.
that is an old contributing building though, it's not like it's a modern six.
What building are we talking about?
The old stone house. on
Where
Troopers
Vicky Marsh
Alley.
is.
Oh, the
You said John
cobblestone
Manhattan used to
ordinary.
have that
Oh,
restaurant
yeah,
in
the
there.
cobblestone
It
ordinary.
had the
It was
original
called the
windows
Cobblestone.
and they wanted to remove them.
Oh, yeah,
from
that's a
our-
pretty contributing building though, Mike.
But anyway, so
I guess my question is, do you know if you're a contributing building? Like, would you come, like, if you were the Allstate building and you came and we said, well, you're not a contributing structure, would you be offended by that, or would you be surprised? Like, you don't have a little certificate that says you are, I'm serious, I mean, I'm serious about that,
yeah,
because,
we could put an NC.
Well,
on the-
because you
When-
have to
when-
wonder who people think this applies
Wouldn't
to.
they come to the town before they would come to us? And the town should,
Tell them
I'm
that.
telling you what to do, should say that you are in the historic district, and by the way, you're considered a contributing building, and certain things would apply.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's the,
That's the process.
that would be
But I also
the
think
logical
there's a lot
steps.
of common sense, and once we do
Well-
an education piece of this, which we have, buildings that were built prior to a certain date, and, you know, and are in their original state, you know, that sentence can be there in our education piece.
But we also have discussed in the past few months that a building like the old dry cleaners 40 years ago wouldn't be considered a contributing structure, but in 2021, it's now more vintage, maybe it is. Like,
Uh-huh.
I don't know where the definitions are, and I don't wanna have anybody come up to us and say, well, how come you all of a sudden decided our building was a contributing structure? I never knew that, or I did know that, and
Uh-huh.
now it's not. I don't know, I just trying to put
Well,
out some
that's-
fires.
Well, isn't the only, I mean, the only distinction in our system is that it's a factor that comes into play in terms of what we deal, what we.
Is it age? Like the
I think
house
it's
is certain
mostly
age?
It could also be though that it's been so changed that it's,
Beyond it.
Beyond.
there's.
I mean, that's
Original
what Phil Thomason said to us, our consultant there in 1998, and why he did not recommend Bradley
Bradley.
Street. Because it had been, there were so many changes to so many of the buildings, it was sort of beyond it, and he recommended it be a conservation zone instead of the historic district.
Well, the two buildings that we allowed to be demolished for the courthouse expansion, one of them was, I think, a 1920s or 1930s building, but you wouldn't even know it from looking at it because it had just been so dramatically changed. The whole inside had been gutted, and outside, really just the bricks were the only thing that were even left. The windows were all gone, the doors were gone, it didn't even look like the original building. So it was old enough.
It had the distinction of being the ugliest building.
It did contribute.
It was contributing in that way.
And really, the whole thing about contributing is, as Byron was saying, it doesn't come up, it comes up in our evaluation.
Okay.
And it is something that is basically a lot of times unspoken, and it's something that you just know, and even somebody who owns a building that's not,
Well, I mean, because we
figures
gave
that it's not.
the Mamma Mia guy a pretty hard time for what is really not necessarily a contributing structure, but, you know.
Well, he's
We
just-
allowed a lot
he-
along with
we-
the final
yeah.
analysis.
I
that
know.
He just
normally
kept
would
coming
not.
back so many times.
I want to go on record as saying that even though I've done some architectural work on that project, it had nothing to do with anything as far as the exterior.
Duly noted.
And did you all approve that thing he built himself on, right up against Grimsburg Drive?
The parking
Yes.
No.
The pergola thing?
Yeah, we.
Oh, that we did, I thought you meant.
Did you really?
Yeah.
We did, because it was in the area where the expansion was.
He told us
and
you
the
designed
idea
that.
was we're just gonna tie it together.
We did not approve the red concrete that we used
No.
at
No.
all.
And while we're on that building, the whole idea was to make that building ADA accessible, and that new door you put in there is like a 2.8 door.
Is that right?
Well, it's not shown as a 2.8 on the drawings.
I know.
It's supposed to be temporary, from what I heard.
Are you talking about the one on the side?
On
No,
the front.
I'm talking about the new entrance.
Oh.
Oh, I
Supposed to
hadn't
be
looked
a
at
temporary door.
Maybe we can take things out of the historic district as
Yeah,
part of
well,
this.
that'll have to come
Yeah,
out.
Ellis would be first in line.
That was
for
something that Rick Statzer should pick up on, the building inspector should pick
He
that.
told Rick, Bill Camp, the contractor, that it was a temporary door.
So therefore,
That's
that's
not
not
what started on Mr.
To
Campbell's.
keep people from going down the alley like there.
Between the two buildings. Well, anyway, I just.
Can I go back to, we're talking about buildings like the two dry cleaning buildings that are not contributing. But they also haven't been altered
Right.
a lot. So I think if they ever came wanting to do something, my take on that would be to encourage working with what's there.
Yes.
And certainly not
Right.
trying to make it look like
Right.
a 19th century
No.
building. or
Right,
something.
no, I
And so
agree.
that's where this,
And that's-
this general
Yeah.
thing that that is not really stated is that hopefully we would be thoughtful enough
Yes.
that this is exactly what, and that's what we said the other day, is the original dry cleaning business
Yeah.
is pretty much in its original state, and it's pretty early.
Is it
Um,
like a mid-century? How old is it?
It looks like it's from
The
the
60s.
30s or 40s?
It's like
The-
mid-century, which
The
now,
old- the-
given that
the
it's
one-
2020,
Yes.
2021.
Is old.
It looks like a, yeah, it looks like
But since it's not
looks like
altered-
part of a row of storefronts, but it's a standalone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Is
it's-
it in the state footprint?
the 300 block?
Well, that part of it.
I thought,
Both
you mean
sides.
both sides of the street are, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I don't know.
Not all the way out that far.
I don't know where it stops. It looks like on the state.
Magnifying glass.
On the state, going east, everything is included up to,
Yeah.
looks like up to Ferris's funeral home. But on the left side of the road, it stops just past Betsy's property, I think.
It sure does. So, that's exactly right.
So it doesn't include the cleaners.
It doesn't
or
include the
anything.
cleaners.
No.
Wait a minute, I'm looking at,
Right there. There's that little alley right before the, creek,
So you said right
oh,
this here.
where's the frozen food we used to call it?
right there, right on the other side.
Oh, so the property just to the left of the alley is not in, but then yours is, right?
Yeah,
So if we expand to match the state footprint, that's not going to include any of those properties.
But we can expand beyond that, I mean.
We can, it's just that
Well, I think we
That's
can't
our
do that.
argument.
that undermines our argument that we're
Yeah.
doing it to
Right.
match the state footprint.
Well, Bob, you should probably be interested in including the Hutton House up there, so you could have another round of hanging.
Is this being recorded?
Well, I know, we talked about that, I kind of wanted to do that too.
Oh, God.
It is
That's
considered
a
a
public
public
meeting.
meeting.
but it's not being recorded, is
Well,
it?
most of these were volunteers.
It is visually too?
Yeah.
This was voluntary. Most of these were volunteers.
So where do we go next? What do we do?
Sure.
Yeah, so that's the question. The question is, do you want to, I mean, it almost seems like based on your discussion, you'd maybe want to walk around. Like identify a district, or do you feel like you really?
Well, I think what we need to decide is, it does seem to me that having as our goal to match what's already been the state historic footprint for quite some time and was based on, if you see that report, you'll see that it was a pretty thorough looking at these properties, not just looking at a map and drawing. So it seems to me that if we make it our goal to do that, then that helps us in getting that done, because I think that it's a good argument. It was evaluated by somebody else other than us. The people that are in that district already presumably know that they're in the historic district, and so that would, I think, help us in getting that done. You know, if we then go beyond that, then that's a little asterisk that we have to explain while we're trying to do this. So I would like to have those additional properties in, but I think it's important that if we try to expand the historic district, that we actually achieve expanding the historic district, because if we end up getting controversy and people not wanting to do it and it doesn't happen, I think it'll be a very long time, if ever, that would happen again.
I completely
Do
So,
agree.
you
I
feel
think-
like we should just right now concentrate on matching the state footprint and forget about the 300 block of East Main?
Well, it would, the 300 block
But
of
it
East
only
Main
goes-
would be a
But it only goes to Betsy's house, right?
No,
On the
on the
other
one
side,
side.
on the
the
other
other
side,
side,
oh,
yes.
okay.
The other side, it goes all the way.
Yeah, the
Okay.
other side goes all the way.
Well, all the way to-
And so, to Denver.
All the way to,
I think it goes beyond Denmore.
It does.
Yeah, so it would get
would catch
Jan
it.
Hurt's house there,
Yes.
that house.
But again, you know, I mean,
And it relieves us
These
of the
people are
of the
really-
cleaners and the other things that are beside the cleaners
That's
too.
what
Right.
what we want to get.
And the funeral home.
so what's the process?
So,
well, I think we need to do several things. One is we need to do educational outreach
Right.
and talk to people in these areas and maybe have some meetings with them. I think another component of it though is, and I don't know what comes first, but ultimately this is gonna be a town council decision.
Mhm.
And so if town council is gonna be opposed to it, then maybe we need to know that sooner rather than later. If they're gonna be in favor of it, we need to know that also. I mean, that we could spend a lot of time and work on this only to find out that there's not support for that.
this would be my suggestion on, I'm like Betsy, I didn't realize that we were as close to covering the state footprint as we are. I would suggest that we present to the town council that we would like to expand the district, copying the state footprint east on the 300 block, which most of those people would volunteer to be in there anyway. Wim King, which I'm sure they would the board would probably volunteer. Have you talked to them about that?
No,
They would not volunteer?
no, I just haven't talked to them.
Okay, what's your feel on that?
Oh, I think they would.
Okay, so
I
then
say
that's,
that with great confidence.
that's two big pieces of this puzzle that would be low-hanging fruit. Now, this over here that's on the end of Park Street, up where Rick Humphreys and, those properties, I don't know who owns all those, but I think that most of those would voluntarily, go into it. So if we went to the council and says, this is what we're, would like to do, or suggest if we do, are you on board with that? And if they say yes, then we go to the education process to these people that are in these properties.
What are these names? Are these the
Sure,
people?
so the first this list that's smaller are the ones that were in the state boundary, but not in a,
In the historic?
yeah, not in a
Okay.
historic, and then the other one was your full boundary. It's the much larger one.
The full
Now,
boundary
there's
that's
some-
not in it.
Correct, so there's some doubling up of names, but we
Okay.
just, this was just for.
So you're
If the council-
thinking-
If the council comes back and says, no, we're not interested in expanding the historic district, then we just drop it, and we don't go through the whole educational process.
But do they need the educational process as well? I guess it just, the
I
council
think they
itself?
do. You don't
I
think they
so.
do, Mike?
What's that?
I think that she was asking if they need the council needs the educational process.
Because it's a different council than when you did this.
Well, Derek's been on our board.
Yeah.
Right.
You're on our board.
Amanda has a big stake in it, I would think, because of her
She
property.
lives in the historic district.
And
yeah.
other
I could not see that they would be opposed to it.
You wouldn't?
Now, when I bring it up, they never really react one way or the other, because I don't think they think that we're really serious about this,
Well, that's that's why I said that, because you had said that before, and I thought that maybe that what you were meaning was that they're sort of not in
They're
favor
not,
of.
they're not, none of them said they're opposed to it.
Oh, okay.
They're just, they've got a lot more things hitting them right now
Right.
than
Okay.
expanding this. But I think if we say, we really think this would help the town in the future,
Mm-hmm,
and I think it would be a mistake if we didn't do this,
mm-hmm.
I think they would be agreeable to it.
How many people are on the council?
Five.
Okay.
But it protects the revenue from visitors, and we want to protect that.
Well, the historic district is really all about avenues of economic development, for sure, so.
So that would be my suggestion, and if they say yes, move forward with our presentation as far as with the educational part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, if you approve this, then we're gonna go educate these areas that we're looking at. I'm not so sure these people would be very up on Oak Hill or
Are we-
Hillside or whatever that
Are
is.
we opposed to having little islands? Like if one property owner wants to come in and is.
They don't like
adjacent
spot
neighbor-
zoning. I mean, they,
town?
unless it touches each other, they don't like the spot zone.
Because it's not an overlay district.
Yeah.
So if it was an overlay, you could kind of have like a bulb out, but.
The whole thing is
yeah.
much easier if it's just.
But I
continuous.
So I think we do need, I think maybe the first step would be, like Mike says,
Bring it to
to
council.
make a very brief presentation to the town council, saying this is, point out from, under the town code, that that's part of our responsibility is recommending, including areas in the historic district, and explain the background of this divergence between the state and ours, and then that we'd like them to match, and then maybe point out, even though it seems obvious to us, the importance of preserving historic buildings and what that means to having it, and then just get some informal feedback from the town council, whether that would be something they would support in theory or not, and then go from there.
Mhm.
And you guys have examples of what happens when you don't protect it? I mean, you guys have like.
Well, they have a very,
that you can-
we just about.
That's why I kind of started back on this, and I'll let you
Yeah.
explain.
Just recently, there was a historic house behind the Presbyterian church, and it was just literally feet outside the historic district, and the church had bought the property
Oh, I saw that.
wanting to,
You jacked it up and then
yeah,
moved it?
so,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that turned out to be a great
That's amazing.
solution, but it's still not in the historic
Yeah,
district.
it was not in the historic district, we were not actually aware of that,
It was in the state
it was in
footprint.
the state footprint.
They were going to demolish it.
They were
Oh,
tearing it down.
That's the point, is it was
Yeah.
saved by moving it.
So that
But
sort of
because it
spurred
wasn't
us
in the
on.
district.
Will it be in the
There were some
historic
people
district after we do this?
Voluntarily contributed assets.
I don't
to
think
pay
so.
I don't think so.
Fine.
But we've gotta choose our battles, I think, I mean,
But see, I mean, that's one person I believe would agree
yeah.
to come in, so if we didn't have to have continued.
I think it's very important that, since this is really I think, only time recently that this board, or the town has talked about is expanding the district, that we've got to achieve it, because it won't happen again if we're running.
Yeah, I was just sitting there looking at the people around this table. There's no young people that ever, have an interest in the historic district, unfortunately. So what we're working on will be lost when we're gone. So if we don't accomplish it,
I just think if it doesn't happen, there won't be the momentum to make it happen later.
That relocated house would be in the expanded
Now
district.
it would.
Oh, it would? That's what I was
I
asking.
think so.
if we expand it now, it's in the state district.
Oh, it is? Okay, then, okay, good, that's what I was
Yeah,
asking.
it covers
Yeah,
that.
so that's
Park
true.
houses, yeah.
Yeah, Park
That's
Street
good.
is.
All park all the way down to where it turns up into Barter.
Okay,
And
yeah.
behind
Yeah, little creeper
the
trail,
Bar, I mean, the
hotels
Martha
and stuff.
property.
Yeah.
Looks like bed and breakfast
Yeah.
along there, and there's a white one that's kind of up on the,
Charlene's places?
yeah.
I like to see us take in that little property there where the trail visitor center
Or the
is.
trail down there.
The Finley House is.
Isn't that right in here?
Isn't it already in here?
The Finley
What's that?
House? The Finley House.
I'm not sure what the name
Where
of
the,
it.
where the tourism office is right
Yes.
this minute? Yes, I think that's the Finley House.
They come to us all the time.
Because
Yeah,
we've
it is.
approved all their stuff.
It is, I mean,
Don't
Cindy
think-
Patterson's house right down the road is in it.
You're talking about
As
the
well,
Levines?
as well as the Levines.
The Levines are in, both
Yeah.
of theirs.
He's talking about the Finley House itself. That whole
That's the
strip right
visitors
there is,
thing?
yeah,
How do
The
they
engine house?
yes. That whole strip there.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
we
it
approved
is.
their
Yeah.
sports area.
So that has to be right in here,
So,
it appears.
I'm gonna get excommunicated from my family if I don't get home.
Okay, so I guess that's,
I have guests,
is that our plan of
and I-
action to?
So I think, does Mike just present that?
Well,
Or
I
do
think
we-
that put him in an awkward position, maybe
Yeah.
Betsy and I should go do it.
Maybe you and Betsy
Right,
should
you
go,
can
and
work
then
behind
Mike
the
can just
scenes.
answer any
Yeah,
questions or.
right. I
Mike,
think
you-
that's
Okay,
fine.
is that-
Of course I would, yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's,
And I think we can't really,
A date picked or?
when's their next?
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
No, that's too soon.
I think the agenda is closed on
When is it?
November 1st.
November the 1st?
Okay, that's fine.
Just get on the agenda.
Try to get on the agenda with Kim Kingsley.
Which I can send an email and
Okay.
CC both of you tomorrow.
Okay.
Can you get us on the agenda?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay.
That's a great way to start.
And then we can't really, we sort of agree not to go any further until we see where that goes.
I think this sounds real doable and a really reasonable way to proceed
Okay.
from all standpoints.
Well, I think anybody like me who's not entirely familiar with where these boundaries are heading should do a tour. We don't need to do it together. I think everybody just needs to make sure they know what we're talking about taking on.
What time's the town council meeting?
6:30.
What, 7?
What time do you
6:30.
go home at night?
Huh?
You ever go home at a normal time?
For me?
Yeah. Do you?
I'm not here that often.
But I mean, if you wanted to set up a tour, like we could drive around for those people who'd like to.
We don't have the trolleys anymore, do we?
No.
Yeah. How
But
about
we
that?
could see where
Who
the
wants that
next-
Lynx bus?
We'd have to call a meeting though, wouldn't we?
And what-
Who has the Lynx bus card in town, or is that some private company?
I don't think I need to do it.
Okay.
I mean, I've lived here all these years and there's still
Yeah.
streets I've never been on in
Okay.
Abington, which is amazing to me.
All right,
I'll
so,
send out an email and see if anyone's interested. If it's less than a quorum, then we
This
could
is what's.
probably.
all right, is that all we
Okay.
need to take
Yeah,
care
that's
of
great.
tonight?
That's great. Great meeting
Question,
everybody.
what are the red, green, and blue bands on this map? What do they have to do with it?
I think that just was something else that got pulled into the GIS, so,
It doesn't show up on here.
yeah.
You mean down here?
Yeah.
I think it was related honestly to an aerial.
This
image.
property, where is this, it's divided from that, is that your property?
I'm sorry?
This property is divided by the diagonal?
Hey,
If you ever need mine.
I was gonna say, I don't know if we had a
I'm
copy
trying
of
to-
this.
Trying to decide
They have
what property
something,
that
the
is.
non-contributing.
I brought.
That's it. That's what's.
That
Oh,
was
yes.
That is,
Together.
Oh, I guess we have to officially close the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
so,
Mike say yes.
Trees blocked
Mike said
okay, so
yes.
that's what's
Mike
being
goes.
approved. All right.
And
Next
say,
ballot.
Yes.
So I wonder why this
I don't think
property
it's
is
in here.
down.
Okay.
But I'd be glad to just
Okay.
share this with you if you want it, but you don't want to. It's got all my notes in
You
it.
know, I really honestly wanted to study, so.
Well, it's somewhere around here, and I will look at it.
Right at the crest.
Yes, I
I
think
had,
I
I
did.
had that.
I think I did. I think I did. I brought so many things
Right.
in. I did.
We do a real quick roll call to
I
adjourn.
think.
Oh.
I had that.
I think that's what I did, but if it's not,
You have a
just let me know.
motion?
Yes.
Okay,
And I
Mr.
will,
Boyd,
try to, I've kept most of it.
adjourn, yes or no? Mr. Owens,
Here,
adjourn, yes or no?
yes.
Mrs. Hartshorn,
Yes.
Mrs. White,
Yes.
Mr. Giesler.
Yes.
And then Mr. Weaver.
Yes, but I'm not sure I should be voting.
I have no idea when.
Since I'm not on the review board.
We're just
anymore.
adjourned. This
Okay.
is
This
a
is
committee.
This
This is an ad hoc committee.
You second that?
Okay.
You second it?
I will.
I think
Yes.
Can you get it?
Just put something down.
Okay, we'll put it down.
20 years from now, nobody's gonna
That's
check.
how we'll get together and come up with our
Yeah.
show.
Okay, that'll be good, okay.
Are you
I
leaving
think
that?
this sounds very doable. Yes. I think-